Welcome to the Grey Matter podcast. We set up this podcast to have deep conversations with people who are thriving on the outside. We're here to learn about the stuff in their grey matter. And we're here for the grey area stories. We're here to humanize the pursuit of success, performance, health span, and well-being. Let's try to unearth what we actually want and what actually matters to us. Leong is the co-founder and managing director of Field Assembly, a gym that offers personal training, Brazilian jiu-jitsu for adults and kids, and a range of group classes. He's also a high performance and health coach at Matter. He's been training and competing in Brazilian jiu-jitsu for several years now and recently earned his brown belt. Gene holds a master's in applied sport and exercise psychology and is especially interested in helping people navigate personal growth through training, health, and performance. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Hi, Gene. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the Grey Matter podcast. I'd like to start somewhere a little bit different today. You are the first competitive athlete that we've had on this podcast, at least at the level where you're competing. As someone who just got his brown belt, you're a competitive athlete, business owner, leader, husband, as well as a coach and a trainer. You do a lot. And honestly, from the outside looking in, you are a high performer. It seems like you really got your shit together. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like you know what's going on in life and that you're headed in the right direction?
Yes and no. I think I tend to oscillate between the two states of knowing and not knowing. There's definitely a lot to be grateful for. I have a comfortable home to go back to. I have a wife that supports me in everything that I do. And generally, I've got a good work life going on, right? So there's a lot to be grateful for. But at the same time, there are a lot of mornings where I wake up super tired, not wanting to go to work, but have to go anyway. You know, there are many moments at work where things don't work out. And like everybody else, I'm questioning whether everything that I'm doing is worth it, right? Yeah, so those moments are not foreign to me. I think I experience them like everybody else. And then there are good days. There are good days where everything feels like it falls into the right place. Very normal days where it feels like it's neither good or bad, right? So I think like a lot of these moments are super temporary. I move in and out of them and thinking about what's important now and how to move on to the next thing is what gets me going.
Yeah, and I think most people can empathize with this. And I think generally people know what to do on the good days and on the sort of moderate days where you can just kind of go along with what you should be doing. What is the conversation like with yourself on the bad days?
Well, that's a good question. Never really thought about what my self-talk is like on the bad days. I think like everybody else, it begins quite negatively. Like you might ruminate on a lot of things. You might start beating yourself down on some mistakes you made or some things you should have done. Then what I focus on next is kind of like how I have to get on with the day, right? I have clients to see, I have a team to run, and there's work to do. So yeah, you kind of get on with it. You do it anyway. You focus on like the task. And once you get into that momentum and you have a bit of positive feedback from the little bit that you're doing, then I guess it kind of works out that day, and then you can reflect on it later. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think three really crucial things you just mentioned there. One is, it seems to be something to do with a sense of responsibility of there's clients to see, there's a team to lead, there's a business to run. Yeah. Probably there's training to do for yourself, for your competitive goals. Yeah. But there's also something about momentum that I think Warren's talking about. And then what you mentioned at the end about reflection. So maybe let's start with the first one. How is it that you know and are able to tell yourself, well, there's work to be done, just get on with it? How do you know that's important? And is it as simple as the sense of responsibility to the people you serve? That's a high value of yours, so it's easy to make that decision? Or
I think on a practical level, there's just things that have to be done, right? Like if you don't see clients, if you don't run a team, then things fall apart and there's no work after that. So on a practical level, it's quite simple to understand. But I guess also on a more, can I say deeper level? It's not really deeper level, but I guess on a values-based level, right? In terms of like the values that I have when it comes to
being there for your people,
helping people, and just doing good work. I think that's what drives me also.
Yeah, I can feel that in the work that you do as well. And I've had the luxury of seeing you work in various different contexts with your team and with the clients that you have, and it's very, very evident that you do deeply care and you're there for their benefit first and your benefit second. But can we talk about the momentum a little bit, right? Because that's the second part of it. So you have, it's probably for you like 5:30, 6 a.m. and you didn't get enough sleep and your body is sore from training and you have some meetings you don't want to take later today. And you like your clients, but you got 4 in a row and that's really hectic to start the day with. And you're not feeling so good and you're like, well, what is the point of this? Why does this all matter? But then you very quickly remind yourself about the sense of responsibility and the people you serve and your values. And then you go into momentum building, basically, right? You just get on with it. And is there a trick there? Is it as simple as just get on the bus, just show up to work?
Is there a trick there? No, man. I guess there are 2 ways I can answer this. The first way I think about it is, like, I've been doing this for over 10 years. You would think that I'm used to getting up at like 6:30, but I'm not. Like every morning, 6:30, I still feel like really sleepy. So I guess, like, at least for my experience, I don't really get used to the volume and intensity of work. Every time or every day that I have to show up and work for that amount of hours, it's still a bit of a challenge.
But it does get easier once you're there.
Yes, exactly.
And once you're in the flow of things,
Yeah.
it just goes.
I wouldn't say it just goes, but it definitely gets easier. There will still be moments where you feel tired through the day, but there will also be good moments where you see maybe one of your clients hit a new PR, or you feel that your client like ended the session with a really positive takeaway.
Some sort of a breakthrough.
Yeah. Stuff like that.
Well, is it fair to say then that maybe the skill that you've gotten better at over the last decade of running this business and showing up even on the days that you don't want to, the skill that you've developed is to not negotiate with yourself once you know what you need to do. So you don't negotiate with the decisions that you've already made that are values-based.
I think I still negotiate. It's just that the conversation becomes, I guess, clearer. Yeah.
And I think it's something that I struggle with too, especially sleep-deprived young kid, that sort of thing. And I've been thinking quite a lot about that because obviously I'm very happy that mental well-being in so many ways are becoming part of our conversations culturally, right? But I think I don't know if it's right to call it a dark side, but there's like a gray area where now people have so much access to information that we can sort of self-diagnose. I have anxiety, I have ADHD, I have imposter syndrome, I have whatever the thing is. And I'm not discounting the fact that these things exist and that we all struggle with these things. But if we don't play our cards right, there is a risk of hiding behind this thing that I have. So it's not my fault. I can't help it.
Right.
And for me, what that rubs against is what I also value. While I value, taking care of yourself and being aware of whatever you're working through, I also value powering through it and having some grit. And I think most people understand that the number one predictor of success in a business world and a sporting world is grit and your ability to persevere. Right. So I think there's something to be said about that, right? There's this skill that we have to develop, even if we do negotiate with ourselves. There's a skill of just do it anyway. Of persisting.
Right.
What do you think?
Well, in many contexts, I've been told that persistence is a quality that I have. But I also think that it's not always a quality. I think
it's not always good.
It's not always good, yeah. And I've experienced that a lot myself. I think there is a thing called unproductive persistence.
Tell me.
There's a lot of research, right?
There's a lot of research. There's some research. What the research?
Right.
Anything to open it?
There's a lot of research on persistence, and for a long time, persistence was seen as a good thing, right? Like it very directly contributed to achievements in many domains, like sport, in the professional world, and also in academics. But there's also research that shows that a lot of persistence can be unproductive. So I think in one of these studies, they took a bunch of college students and they gave them a puzzle to do. And they segmented the college students to different self-esteem levels, right? Like high, medium, and low.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they gave them the puzzle, and they told one group, they separated them into 2 groups, and in each group there were students that were categorized into low, medium, and high self-esteem. And they told one group that you did well in the puzzle, and the other group they told them that you did badly. And this was regardless of their actual results. And they found that in the group that was told that they did badly, the students with high self-esteem persisted even harder in the second puzzle after that.
Huh.
But they did more poorly than everybody else.
Whoa.
Yeah. What the researchers found was the kind of persistence they had was quite unproductive, and they called it wheel spinning. Like wheel spinning. And
Why are some people like that?
I think I'm like that a lot of the time.
Shit, I think I'm like that.
Yeah.
Don't ask my wife.
Wheel spinning is essentially struggling with a problem without learning anything. Like you might stick with a problem, you might ruminate on it, but you might not be actually making any headway or learning anything about it. And interesting thing is, like, I'm not sure if it was the same group of researchers, but there was another study that they got another group of students to do another puzzle. But this time, some questions in this puzzle were rigged. Like, it's impossible to solve. And again, they categorized the students into low, medium, and high self-esteem. And then they got the students to do the puzzle. And now they gave them explicit advice. In one group, they told them that if you encountered a problem that you cannot solve, just skip, right? And then in another group, they told them to persist, no matter what, just persist. The interesting discovery here is for the group that was told to skip, those with high self-esteem refused to skip when they encountered the impossible problems. The researchers suggested that maybe it could be that, they figured if they solved the problem when they were told not to, they can take all the credit for themselves. So it's a bit ego-driven also. And I definitely have some of that, I think, sometimes. But the whole idea of like unproductive persistence and wheel spinning, I see that a lot in my own life. I think in the early days, like when I was going through school and going through army and all of that, persistence really helped. So that became my cheat code.
Yeah.
I thought like if it worked in school and if it worked in army, if I just persisted in everything, then it will work out.
Yeah.
But obviously not. I think there were a lot of things in my life and even now that I am persisting in that I probably should let go of. Do you watch Shark Tank? Kevin O'Leary, when he tells them to take it behind a barn and shoot it. Yeah. So that's what I think of most of the time. Like I know there are some things I should probably stop persisting in, but I don't. So the researchers talk about how knowing when to quit is actually a skill, right? And I think the biggest takeaway is not that persistence is bad. Like these are obviously rigged experiments, right? Very rarely in life do we go through life having somebody give us a problem that's impossible to solve, unless you're being scammed. Yeah. And there are also a lot of research out there, especially those by, I think, Angela Duckworth, that shows that like persistence is actually a good thing. And all of those things are still true. I think what these studies show is just that like there will be times in our lives where knowing when to quit can be a very strategic skill to have.
Yeah, I think persistence is important, but you need to put some caveats on it. You need to balance it out with some other variables so you don't just over-index on that one, right? And this stuff that you just talked about really resonates with me as well, because I think in my own life experience, I also found that, I'm not so good at this stuff, but I can tolerate more than others. So I'm just gonna like work. And it did well for me. That strategy was good as well.
Yeah.
And only now, I just turned 39, only I think in the last maybe 2 years or so, have I really settled into believing and feeling that I know I have about this much to give in a day of high value, high productivity, high impact work.
Yeah.
And I can almost feel it now, where if I try and push past that, which I still have to do sometimes, because sometimes with time constraints or whatever, or I'm sleep deprived and I need to power through, but I can feel the point at which my quality of work starts to dip.
Yeah.
And then it has impacts on how well I show up for my family and how well I take care of myself. And even like the food choices that I make end up going all over the place if I push that too far.
Yeah.
So it's become kind of a theme in my life. And I've actually, kind of on purpose spoken to my wife about it and to some other people about it to sort of keep myself in check of, if I do, especially with my wife, if like you do see me going too far, don't tell me to stop, because I'll be like, you. What is help me recognize it and just like phrase it as a question.
What is the most mundane, inconsequential thing that you persist in that you probably shouldn't?
Right now,
the
quality of my prompts.
Quality of your prompts on Gen AI?
On Gen AI.
Oh, okay. So you have one like
I spend so much. You know how AI is supposed to save you time?
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But I spend so much time crafting the perfect prompts
Right. Yeah.
and then have to just keep reworking them.
Right.
That's a silly thing, but I just really enjoy the process.
Okay. Hey, that's not really wasting time. Right.
I'm sure there's some others.
Do you, like, when you read and you don't like the book they're reading, do you finish it anyway?
No,
Oh.
not anymore.
Okay.
Not anymore. And the way that I get around that is I read like 3 or 4 books at the same time.
Okay.
And so I can kind of switch around.
Yeah.
And I'd say probably a third of the books that I start, I don't finish.
Right.
Oh, here's one. When I listen to podcasts, especially educational stuff, I feel this need to constantly take notes instead of just listening to the material. That's one that I should probably shake.
Yeah. I used to have that when I go for, remember when we used to go for all these fitness instructor courses when Steve Maxwell first came to say, yeah. I used to like take notes and everything, but I never read any of those notes. Yeah. But I guess the note taking itself was a good.
Yeah, it does help, right? It does help. Yeah. I do have a question about this persistence thing, and it's okay if you don't recall.
Yeah.
In those couple of studies that you're talking about, do you remember what happened with the low self-esteem people?
So there were 2 groups, right? In the first study, there were 2 groups. One group was told that they did well, one group was told that they didn't do well. And in the group that was told they didn't do well, the students with low self-esteem didn't persist as much as those with high self-esteem. But I guess there's another mechanism to explain that. With people who feel like they are not very competent in a certain task, they wouldn't try very hard to, if they fall short of the standard, they can say, oh, it's not that because I wasn't competent, it was because I didn't try hard enough. That's a whole other bunch of studies we can talk about. Yeah.
Another question on the persistence stuff. Is there an inherent difference between, or what's the nuance between persistence and grit? Or are they the same thing? And is there a difference between those and resilience?
I'm not sure if persistence and grit are different constructs in psychology. I'm not sure. I think persistence definitely, there are definitely huge overlaps between persistence and grit, but we'll have to look at how they define it to really know if they're the same thing. But what I do know is resilience is a totally different topic altogether. When researchers talk about resilience, they talk about not just going through adversity, but actually coming out of it at the end of it being more equipped to handle the next one, or actually thriving through the whole experience of persisting through something difficult. Yeah.
And I think that's such a crucial adjustment in framing when we're going through hard stuff. And I know on a personal level, I've made this mistake quite a lot in the past. I'm sure I'm still making it in some way now.
Yeah.
But when things get hard and you have a challenge in front of you and you get knocked down, whether it's a micro failure or a big failure, there are various ways that to get through it. And I think it's quite common, especially in this part of the world, but probably it's just like one of those human things where some of us feel that, okay, I'm just going to bite down on it and just power through and grit my way through with everything I have. And I don't care at what costs I am winning or I'm making it there, I'm overcoming it.
Sometimes, I mean, it sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes that's the easiest thing to do, right? When we are led with, sometimes that's kind of like the lowest hanging fruit. You know?
That's such a good point. It's almost like, all bets are off now. The gloves are coming off and I'm just going for it. You're right. In some ways, it is the easier thing if you're not afraid of hard work. And in the past, you have this habit of being able to out-persist.
Yeah.
And I think the value of taking a frame of resilience to it is, what if we could get through the difficult thing, but also sit with the emotions involved in this thing and learn to manage them and learn to understand them and carry the lessons from this experience, but then put the emotional baggage to rest.
Right.
So we can move forward with the lessons and the strength without the baggage.
Right.
I feel like that should be the goal. That should be the better framework for how to get through difficult shit.
So what you're saying is live through the emotions of going through the adversity, and what does it mean to put it to rest though?
I think a lot of times we have unresolved emotions that we feel we need to brush past. Or rather that we don't have time to address because I just need to keep moving.
Right.
And I think there are times in life where we do have to do that. especially if there's financial insecurity involved in it and all this stuff. But at some point, you should address those unresolved emotions because they will come and slap you in the face in some way at some point, whether through a physical health issue or now you have a pattern of, I don't know, not trusting people or anything of that nature. I think if we don't learn the skill of putting the negative emotions to rest, as in coming to terms with them, learning from them, honoring what they're calling our attention to, and carrying the lesson forward, if we don't learn the skill of giving them time of day, then we're doing ourselves a disservice in the future.
Yeah.
What do you think? Would you agree with that?
I agree with the general idea for sure, but I guess I struggle with understanding resolving it means. Like, do we have to understand why it came up? Like, what do we have to do with that? I mean, we definitely have to acknowledge it, right? Acknowledge it, and then like, what do we...
I suppose a practical example could be something happens and, you know, kind of not related to like a big failure, but if something happens and it really pisses you off, if your wife says something and it really pisses you off, it's usually because a boundary that you have has been encroached on in some way, right? Something has happened where you feel like, hey, you shouldn't say that to me. You shouldn't treat me in this way. And I think many of us, myself included, sometimes will have the tendency to, you know, have our boundaries encroached on, get pissed off, but not deal with it with the person and not resolve the emotions by thinking about why.
Right.
Did that piss me off?
Right.
What was the value that it was rubbing up against?
Yeah. That makes
What are the competing values that might need to be reconciled? Instead, what we tend to do is, let me go exercise as hard as I can until I can't feel my face. And then I will go home and I'll be so tired. It will feel like relaxation.
Yeah.
And
or you just shut down when I always want to talk about it. I do that a lot.
No, not me.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
You're fine. Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely do that a lot. No, I'm fine. What's that Bill Burr special when he talks about you're allowed to be either fine or angry or mad. You're allowed to be either fine or mad.
Yeah, and I think that's a practical example of if we were to maybe sit with that anger that we felt and the thing that was said, it could end in something like an understanding of, okay, it's important to me that she respects the work that I do. And if I need to take a little bit more time than she wants me to, I would like to figure out a way where she can be okay with that. And there's no resolution there yet, but you can take that understanding because you followed the emotion.
Yeah.
And you went home and you said to your wife that, look, I know some days you end up waiting for me and I will try to get better at managing my time, but sometimes some things pop up at work.
Yeah.
And I really want to be the type of person who can handle it there if it's going to take me an additional 15 minutes. And I would like to get to a place where you appreciate that about me and you can support me in a decision like that.
It's a lot of clarity that I don't have at home.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think like I say this like I know what I'm doing, but like it's not like I do these things all the time, right? But the ultimate version of me, I would want to be able to handle conflict in that way.
Yeah.
Where we would end up is having a conversation with that person who pissed you off.
Yeah.
And then you can adjust how you guys interact. And maybe there's some things you can say or there's an extra buffer you can build in before you schedule something with her. And then you would be able to move on with the lesson, but not the baggage.
Yeah. I think what clicked there for me is that like, I'm not just kind to her, but I'm also being kind to myself
That's
at the same time. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
you are.
Yeah, if we manage to actually articulate all of that.
Yeah, which is a tall task when you're pissed off and
when you're tired. It's so strange, right? Like you go to work and you're like, you communicate so clearly with everyone at work, but you go home and you just don't have the bandwidth to do that at home.
One of the most important things in my relationship with my wife that she's ever said to me, thank goodness it was before we had kids. She said to me something to the effect of, you know, all this work that you do, I see you with your team and you spend so much time with them and you care so deeply and you do these reflection exercises and you do these quarterly plannings and you do these weekly meetings and you get everybody aligned and everybody around you just loves being part of this team. And she said to me, what would it feel like in our relationship if you spent a fraction of that effort?
That might have been said to me, man. Yeah, I think at the end of the year, we have all that end of year reviews with the team and everything. I did the same thing at home. I was like, oh, why don't we try to do our own version of it?
And then what happened?
It was pretty good. I think we talked about what we did well that year, what we didn't do well, what do we want to keep doing, what do we want to start doing, what do you want to stop doing? Like just the usual questions that I use with the team as well, but like in the context of our relationship. Yeah, so we are 3 months into the year now. Time for a quarterly review. Yeah.
And did it feel good? Did it feel like it brought you guys closer as a team for the life you're building?
I don't think it ever felt like we were not a team. Yeah. But it'd be interesting to see what helps us to build our relationship. Or marriage.
Yeah, I think that might be, if nothing else, an interesting process to go through with your partner, right? To just figure out if you're on the same page. And even if it just has the effect of, I know for the first half of this year, one of Gene's focuses, one of the things that's really important to him is doing XYZ. So on the days where I see him focusing on that, I can support him and encourage him versus be like, why the hell are you doing that?
Yeah.
Even if just on that level, I feel like it could be such a helpful thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we can shift gears a little bit, I know that one of the things that you worked on pretty deeply on your master's program was about goal setting.
Yeah.
And I think this is, it's quite related here, right? Because we're talking about powering through difficult times, overcoming challenges. We're talking about learning to be resilient in a way where we can get through challenges, but learn from them and not be dragged around into bad territory by our emotions.
Yeah.
But really the broader context of what we're trying to do here is be helpful to people who have goals that they've set and maybe they're ambitious and there's stuff that they want to achieve, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we can just start with what surprised you when you started doing your research goal setting?
So maybe a little bit of context will help. So the research on goal setting was done on 30 recreational jiu-jitsu participants.
That was your study?
That was my study, yeah. And what I wanted to look at was what their goal setting practices were like and how that relates to their overall well-being. And the reason why that was interesting to me was because most people do recreational sport for well-being, right? To enhance their well-being. They want to get fitter, they want to make friends.
Yeah.
And it's some kind of personal growth that they're chasing. But all these benefits, they're not guaranteed in recreational sport, and especially not a sport like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know, the attrition rates are pretty high, and the risk of injury is there. It costs money to participate, and like if you had a bad day in training, which can be extremely common in jiu-jitsu, at least for me, then you go home ruminating on like I didn't do that well today, the guy smashed me and stuff like that, right? So the sense of well-being isn't guaranteed in recreational sport, and especially not in jiu-jitsu. And I thought it'd be interesting to see what the psychological practices of recreational participants were like and how that related to their well-being. And the most common psychological skill that people use without any kind of training would be goal setting. Like everyone sets goals. Yeah. So what I did was I gave the 30 participants a goal setting survey to see what kind of goals they set. Then I gave them a survey called the Basic Psychological Needs in Exercise Survey, which is to assess their basic psychological needs. So your sense of autonomy, competence, and relatedness within the context of your sport, right? And then a third survey, which is the WHO-5. This is to measure your overall well-being just throughout your life, whether you're happy, whether you wake up fresh and feeling energetic, that kind of thing. Then I took their goals and I categorized them into 3 goals. Process goals, which mainly, when you set process goals, these are like tasks that are very much in your control, right? So for example, if you want to lose weight, your process goal will be something like
3 times a week for the next 5 weeks.
3 times a week, go to the gym. I will have no sugary drinks for 3 days or 5 days, that kind of thing. Like things that you can control, very much in your control. There are performance goals, which measure you against your previous performance thresholds. So for example, if you want to start running and you've only ran 3 kilometers before, right? Running 5 kilometers non-stop is a performance goal. Shaving that timing down to 30 minutes is a performance goal. So you measure it against your previous performances. Somewhat controllable in many contexts, according to a lot of the research. And then there are outcome goals, and these are mostly achievement and identity based. So I want to become a champion, I want to win that tournament, stuff like that. we have the least amount of control over outcome goals.
Sorry, is it fair to say that outcome and performance goals have an overlap? Because you can have a performance goal of I want to shave off 5 minutes from
And if, I guess if you see that as an achievement, then that could be there will be overlaps between the different goal types for sure.
If you want to add 10 kilos to your squat, that would be a performance goal. But if you want to win this upcoming jiu-jitsu competition, that is an outcome goal.
Yeah. I think that's a neat way to understand that. Then I looked at what the research said about combined goals and single goals, right? So the research talked about how if you use different types of goals, it's probably better for performance and well-being than using single goals.
What does that look like practically? What's a combined goal?
So you have process, performance, and outcome goals.
Oh.
Yeah. You use all three.
So let me just try. I want to win this competition in June, but I'm going to do that by showing up to practice
4 times a week.
4 times per week. And the performance goal would be in that context.
Depending on what sport it is, right? I guess if it's like a marathon, then my performance goal would be hitting a pace that
Got it.
like a 5:30 pace.
Yeah, so then maybe every month I would have a shifting performance goal so I can, I understand. Yeah, so you kind of weave it all together.
And I guess performance goal is more like practice based. So every practice that you show up, like what's going to be my performance goal for that practice? Yeah.
So then basically with the combined sort of mixed goal setting process, trying to give yourself little wins that you can achieve every time you show up for training.
Little wins and also...
And then bigger wins, and then they lead up to the outcome.
Yeah, I think that's another way to look at it.
Okay.
Yeah. Researchers talked about how combined goals generally do better than single goals in performance and well-being. So I wanted to look at that relationship. They also talked about how process goals perform better than performance goals, which performs better than outcome goals in overall well-being because of the amount of control that it affords the goal setter. And I think back to your question of like what I found interesting in that sample size was that the participants that set combined goals, they didn't do any better than those who set single goals in the basic psychological needs survey, right? So this is their well-being within the context of jiu-jitsu, within the context of their sport. At the beginning, it was like a bit disappointing, like, oh, I didn't get a result here. But when I reread some of the research that I did preparing for this study, it kind of made sense because if you were doing jiu-jitsu for 3 years, like within 2 to 3 years, those who don't have that capacity to enjoy the sport, right? Or those who just didn't enjoy the sport because they were getting smashed every day, that kind of thing, they would have left. And those who stayed would be enjoying it in spite of getting smashed.
Yeah. They're getting value from it in different ways.
Yeah. So there was a bit of like a survivorship bias over there. Like the people who stayed after 3 years, these guys probably already have a mastery focus when it comes to jiu-jitsu. They've already made friends in the sport. They enjoy it in some way, and it contributes to their personal growth. So I guess in that way, it kind of made sense. But the combined goals group did do better, marginally better than the single goals group in overall well-being. So your well-being outside of sport, and that also made sense because if you set combined goals, you probably have a bit more of a balanced lifestyle than those who set single goals, right? Those who are like fully focused on jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The third finding was that process goals did do better than performance and outcome, which wasn't a surprise because it does afford the user with a high level of controllability. But performance goals did the worst than outcome and process goals. And
is that in line with the research?
Once you look into what performance goals look like in jiu-jitsu, then it aligns with the research. Because at first I was a bit confused, like, hey, how come? But it makes sense because when you talk about running, like you can control your pace somewhat. When you talk about a sport like tennis, there are moments of the match where you can control exactly what you're going to do. Like, I'm going to serve the ball into this part of the box, for example. But in jiu-jitsu, like every moment is zero-sum. Like if my performance goal was to score 3 times in training today, if all my partners are not going to let me, that's not going to happen. You know, so the level of controllability with performance goals in jiu-jitsu is a lot lower than a lot of other sports that the research have looked at, right? So that makes a lot of sense. Outcome goals did better because these outcome goals that the participants reported were typically quite distal. So they were like far away. Like in 2 to 3 years, I want to be this type of practitioner.
Or get my brown belt
or whatever, right?
Yeah,
it's quite distal and it's also aspirational. So that gives meaning to the user. And it also doesn't cause anxiety or stress because they're so far away, as opposed to performance goal where like, oh, this Saturday I have to to do this, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah, at first when I got the results, it was a bit disappointing. It didn't match the research. I couldn't write it in a certain way, but it all made sense. Yeah.
Once you sat with it and you tried to understand it at a deeper level,
Yeah.
it kind of fell into place.
And important implications also, right? So when it comes to goal setting, it's still worth setting combined goals over single goals because of your overall well-being.
Yep.
And I would prioritize process goals first. Recognize that your outcome goals can add meaning to your journey. It can be aspirational and it will always be important. I think we all need outcome goals. If you're going to set performance goals, consider your context and how controllable it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful. And I think, if we can later on map out for maybe someone who's feeling burnt out or someone who's trying to lose some weight, how they would go about setting a combined goal. But just on the process-oriented goal bit, from my understanding of it, and also just on a logic basis, it seems like setting a process-oriented goal is going to make it more likely that you stick to it, and it's going to give you a better sense of well-being because you afford yourself many more opportunities to feel good. Like maybe it's not more complex than that, right?
Taking something off the box, right?
Yeah, because it's also like, especially for busy people, with like so many responsibilities, the thought of some big performance goal or some big outcome goal on a moderate or shitty day might be like, oh my goodness, like I have to go and do this thing on this date that's like so overwhelming right now. But if all I need to focus on today is I just got to show up to the gym.
Yeah.
I just have to like do something. Like I have this program I'm following. I just need to do that. That's all.
Yeah.
And then I'm done for the day. I think you award yourself like a well-earned dopamine hit that keeps your goal setting and your motivation moving in the right direction. Because you're consistently reminding yourself that, hey, you did it, well done. Hey, you did it, well done. Hey, you did it, well done. What do you think about that?
The kind of momentum they described is definitely super important. I also think it's quite important at the end of a certain, I don't know, call it a microcycle, if you will, end of the week, end of the fortnight, end of the month. It's quite important to review that and look at how well you carried out those goals. So if your process goal was to, for example, show up at the gym 3 times a week, and if you showed up and did extremely little, that should kind of show up in your review. Like what did I do well, what I didn't do well, and then what I'm going to improve on the next time. Your review isn't a time to beat yourself down for what happened in the last microcycle, right? It's to calibrate.
It's to be specific and to add nuance that, well done, being consistent. Now we need to work on intensity or effort.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you first set goals, you are really shooting quite blindly. It's very hard to know that if we are starting a new pursuit, we have no idea what works out for us. So we just have to start, right? We have to choose something that we think we can follow for the next 7 days. And then we live out the next 7 days. And we see whether, how it plays out. And at the end of the 7 days, we can tell like, okay, this thing went well. This thing was a little bit too ambitious. This is how I can calibrate it. And over time, maybe that can help you move your goalposts for your outcome goals as well. Like if you initially thought that I want to lose like 15 kg, for example, and then through the weeks as you're living out your process and your performance goals, you find that you're actually not okay with the sacrifice for 15 kg. And you go like, actually for what you're willing to do, you can lose like 7.5, Are you okay with that outcome? And if you're okay, then you have effectively shifted that goalpost.
And I think this process of shifting the goalposts in the busy lives that we lead is so important. And it's one of the hardest things to communicate to people who haven't worked with a coach. And I'm not talking about like working with a trainer. I'm talking about working with a coach who can help you through the goal setting and habit building and the accountability stuff and this nuance that we're talking about. Which is, we can be clear that you have been very consistent and that's great, but let's also be clear about where we are leaving stuff on the table. And then I need to have a conversation with you. Are you okay leaving that on the table? Because it's your choice, not mine. But if we don't have this conversation about it, there's so much room for frustration when you don't meet your goals or just day to day because you feel lesser than. And so I know you do some work with high performance athletes and also high performance executives on a coaching level. You also do some health coaching. Is it as simple as if you see this client every couple of weeks? Is it as simple as you asking those questions of how do you think this week went? Or like how deep does that process go? If you can just use an example of someone that you work with.
I guess, I mean, earlier on you mentioned that it's really important that the answer comes from them, right? And that's a huge part of that review process.
Same when dealing with your wife, right? It has to be their idea, right? Really? She's kidding. I'm gonna get in so much trouble for that.
Yes. Anyway, yeah, it's quite important that ideas should come from them, not because we can hold them hostage for whatever if they fail or anything, but it gives them the agency to decide their own path and chart their own journey. Yeah, I think that's a guiding principle for me. Be client-led, student-led, athlete-led, whatever you want to call it. As a coach, we're really there to facilitate and give them help them find the right vocabulary to gain that insight, you know? Yeah, and with that insight, they can create their systems and their structures that can help them develop new habits.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the insights is that a lot of times, almost always, the insights come from the person themselves. The trouble is, when we're so busy, we don't sit down and think about it and write about it to a point where we get to that level of understanding ourselves. And then we end up frustrated, we end up giving up on things prematurely or not adjusting our goals when we should, not accommodating to all the other chaos that's going on in your life. But if we were to dumb that down, because like, as I think about it more, it probably is very individual and context specific what you would challenge a coaching client with. But is there, if someone wants to just do this on their own day to day with a habit that they're struggling to build for a performance goal that they have, like maybe I want to lose 5 kilos. Every 2 weeks, every week or two, what is a good question that they can ask themselves to keep themselves honest?
I think 3 questions. This is something that I get my staff to do all the time, and this is something that we also get our clients to do, and something I do myself a lot also, right? 3 questions like, what have I done well? What can I do better? And what is one thing I'll do now? So out of all of that, just one thing, you know, for the next 7 days or the next 14 days, like create parameters around it, make it specific enough that you can actually act on. Yeah,
I think what's super good about that is they're not intimidating questions.
No.
And they don't require a lot of time.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're doing it at the end of the week. And
depends on how much you ruminate. You could take up a lot of time, yeah. But it shouldn't. I mean, we want self-awareness and not attention that turns into rumination, right? Yeah. I think it's also worth asking, when you're thinking about process goals and you're setting them, it's worth asking, like, because when we talk about it when we get like intellectual about it or academic about it, it's quite fun to look at the different definitions, at least to us. But if you're using it on a very practical level and you want to set process goals, just ask what's in your control. You know, like what is one thing that I can control, and that can become your process goal.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And it usually ends up being something small that you can do consistently on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the small things, like just on this example of someone trying to lose weight, I can control waking up 10 minutes earlier and walking an extra 2,000 steps.
And that's subjective, right? Maybe somebody else cannot. They really cannot control waking up 10 minutes earlier. So, okay, what can you control then?
Yeah.
If you cannot control 10 minutes, what can you control? Yeah, there must be something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we move on to the next thing, can we give this a go of, let's just say like a simple example of someone who is, you know, on a path to get healthier, and they have about 10 kilos. That's the number they have in their mind that they want to lose. It's kind of a general just feeling that they have, it's time to like get my shit together. How would we go about walking that person through setting a combined goal?
Okay.
Right? So the person's trying to lose about 10 kilos, but it's really, they just want to get healthier and their pants are kind of tight.
Yeah.
What is a simple process that we can help people sort of just plug and play so they can develop goals that are more likely to help them achieve the thing that they want to achieve?
So we've spoken to this person, we kind of know why they want to lose 10 kg, right? We know this person's...
I mean, we can make it up. We can make it up because that part is important, right?
Yeah.
So it would start with a question, with a series of questions about why are you actually doing this?
Yes.
So what are some common ones that you've come across?
People tend to say like they want to live a more healthy life so they can have a more productive time with their family, with their kids. I think that's a very common one.
Yeah, let's go with that one. Yeah. Very, very applicable one to a lot of people.
Right. So if your outcome goals are achievement and identity based, I will start there. You want to be the kind of parent that takes care of yourself so you can live well for your kids, for yourself and for your kids, right? So this is your outcome goal.
So top of sheet of paper, they can actually just write.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And your outcome goals must be consistent with your values, which is what we just talked about. And then we talk about your tasks for the following week, right? Like let's say you start working with a coach or a personal trainer or something like that, and you have work to do the next 7 days, and the work that you put out would be your process goals. So maybe 2 sessions with a trainer, and your sessions must be like a RPE, I don't know, 7.5, 8 out of 10.
Which for everyone that doesn't know what that is, it's how hard you push.
How hard you push in your session. Your RPE is your rate of perceived exertion or effort, right? And then maybe one long walk. Your own, right? And
you can define that by whatever your fitness level is. Yeah.
And I typically also ask my clients, like before I give them the task list, I typically ask them, what have your habits been like the last 30 days? Because
you want to calibrate them close enough so it's achievable.
Yeah, if you are sleeping 5 hours, you're not going to get 7 hours.
Yep.
Yeah. So if this guy is sleeping like 5 hours a night, okay, for the next 7 days, let's just stick to at least 5 hours a night. We don't even increase, like that's your bare minimum.
Yep.
What's your hydration like? Okay, maybe 3 liters of water a day. And something that I learned from you actually way back is just eat more green vegetables. For your first diet task is to just eat more green vegetables, right? It's all very simple. You're not taking away their fried food. You're not taking away their sugary drinks. You're not taking away their alcohol. Just these simple tasks.
Nice.
Then you're not even talking about performance goals here, right? Because there's nothing to perform. Yeah. It's just about getting the journey started. And after 7 days, we look at it. We do an adherence check, and the adherence check can be like, I think we have to be careful about how we do it. We don't want to make them feel like they're getting
audited.
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm in a hurry, I feel like that's maybe one gap that I have. I might make my clients feel like, they might feel, oh, Jin is asking me whether I've done all these things. But all my clients are pretty solid. They do most of their homework. Yeah, so you do an adherence check. And in the past, I used to think you have to hit 100% before I give you the next task list, right? Because I feel like if the tasks are simple enough and it's already calibrated, then let's just hit 100%. But more like as people get busier, especially I don't know what it is about working life these days, but people are just getting like super busy at work and at home. I've moderated that to like 80%. We can get like 80. Like there are some non-negotiables. So your workouts at like RPE 7.5 is a non-negotiable. I think if you have 3 workouts and one of them is like a RPE 6, okay, fine, you can skip that one. But your 2 at 7.5, you gotta hit that one. There are some like a veto items that you have to hit.
That would be specific to that client as well.
Yeah. And some things that because of life you really have no choice, like sleep 5 hours because you have less than that because you have a client event or whatever, then okay lah, no choice lah. Yeah, so you build on your task list, like it gets more difficult, and over time you can start having performance goals, right? Because if this client has never worked out before and they're just starting how to like squat, bench and deadlift, and they're just starting, they're not even running, they're just having long walks. And they build that up into, now they're doing like barbell squats, barbell deadlifts and all those things. You can start having performance goals of like hitting PRs and running faster.
Which adds a really nice flavor to it, right? So that starts as, okay, I just need to be consistent, and you start feeling good because you're achieving those things.
Yeah.
And then a good coach would start being able to throw performance goals at you. Yeah. And I think we're ready to set something like this. Let's try and add however many.
And usually at first they're like, hey, you add weight on the bar, then, but before long they're asking to add weight, So it's pretty cool to see them get empowered that way. And
well, I think the empowered side of it is so important, because then it starts to shift to something that's truly identity based, where it's no longer like, oh, I don't really want to, but I have to. It shifts from that to, I really want to. Yeah. Like it really means something to me when I can go.
It's a mind shift, right? Have you read that book by Barbara Oakley, Mind Shift? It's a term that she coined. It's what it means is a profound transformative experience that's acquired through learning. So not like a dramatic life changing event, but something like quietly introduces shifts to your life, so new possibilities of identity become possible to you. Yeah.
That's such a nice way of phrasing it, because that's what we're trying to go for, right? I think that's what a lot of doctors are trying to do as well. It's just that they they're so busy and they're trying to do it through the consults that they can have.
Yeah.
That's why I think, like an integrated approach where we have exercise specialists if you need it, and we have coaches if you need it, we have the medical expertise if you need it, we have whatever supplementary adjunct services if you need them, and maybe we can develop an ecosystem that is unique to you to help you get to this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so then actually for this hypothetical person, we got process-oriented goals, we have some performance goals. That's maybe enough, right? Maybe that person doesn't need to develop any sort of outcome goal because maybe they don't want to compete in anything. They don't really feel like they need to win in anything.
The outcome goal would be the identity that they
that's interesting.
with their values, right? They want to be that guy. They want to be the strong dad that looks after his family.
Would we need to be able to define it? Can it be as simple as my successful outcome of this identity shift is that for 3 months straight, I have dinner with my kids 3 times a week. And every time I'm at dinner with them at an 80% success rate, I can self-rate that I was fully present for the whole dinner. Can it be like that? Does it need to be like that?
I think the good news is there is goal setting department that will come and govern how we set goals. So if you want
Except Gene will come and ask you.
So the answer is yes, you could set outcome goals in however way you want it.
But is it for the outcome goals like this, the identity based? Is it important also that they are easy to?
I think the important, if you were to be really strict and follow what the research says, outcome goals are typically aspirational in nature. So if it's something that lights up the fire in your belly, it gets you going and gets you inspired in the moments where you need inspiration, I think it works. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then on that note, since we're talking about outcome goals, and for some people it is they just want to show up as a more present, more productive parent with their kids. For other people, they are sort of hard, tangible achievements that they can touch, right? Like for some people it is, I want to win the Olympics or the SEA Games. For some people, the outcome goal is, I'm trying to build a company.
Finish marathon.
I'm trying to build a company and sell it for whatever. Or I'm trying to, launch something and get it to this level of success. Or I'm trying to maybe nurture this important client relationship and then have it become a successful long-term business relationship. Something like that, right? That is, for them, a clear outcome that they're working towards. Do you think that's important for human beings? The setting it up so we have to achieve something big and scary. Yeah, do you think that's important?
I think having something that is aspirational in nature in our lives is always important. I think how sometimes when we participate in recreational sport and we talk about how it's not about the winning or the losing. It's when winning is a bonus and when you lose you learn. I think that's obviously true, but winning is also important. I think we need wins in our lives. We need to when we win, we get a very particular kind of feedback, right? It's a very unique kind of feedback, that we are actually competent in the thing that we're doing.
Winning is as evidence of competency is huge.
It's not the only evidence of competency, but it's definitely a very important one, right? Yeah. It's, we can't deny that a world champion in tennis is not competent in tennis.
And when they walk into a room, you can feel that they're different in some way.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, sometimes they can be pricks, but barring that, when someone has achieved significant things in their lives, they have a certain presence and confidence about them that you can tell is hard earned versus fake.
Yeah. So wins are important because of the sense of competence that it can contribute to, amongst other things that can also contribute to the sense of competence. It also brings you a kind of social recognition that feeds our ego, which can become unhealthy, but it's also can be good for us in some way, I think, sometimes.
I mean, it would be silly for us to pretend like status doesn't matter in
exactly.
society.
Yeah. having a reputation for competence, having a reputation for having social recognition for that gives you avenues to build your own material wealth in your life, right? In certain ways. And I think all of that's quite important. Like you need wins in your life. Yeah. So in that sense, outcome goals are important. Like your process goals would mean very little if you're not trying to win. You know, because if you're not trying to win, then your process goals, you can just be very lax and you know, we want to stay disciplined with our process goals for a good reason, because we want to win. And if we don't win, okay, fine, we learn from it, but we're going to try to, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely see that. And do you think when it comes to the high performers you deal with, what are the risks there with over-indexing on winning?
Right.
What is the downside of that level of ambition and that level of drive?
I think on a bigger picture level, the risks of over-indexing comes when they do it with their pursuit-based identity rather than a singular event. So, for example, if you're a founder of a company X, that's your entire identity. You just rest your identity on being the founder of company X, and then company X like falls apart, right? Then the founder then becomes, or that person in question then becomes really lost and basically has the rug pulled up from under his or her feet. And with athletes, like there's a lot to talk about as well, because there are a lot of athletes where retirement is forced upon them. They go through injuries, and like previously it was thought that like recovery was a linear process, right? They recover means they go back to a pre-setback state. So they recover from an injury and they start playing at the same level they were playing again. And more so, there are research that shows how a lot of athletes actually retain their sense of well-being when they do three things actually. One is if they retain relationships that they have outside of sport. So relationship with their family, with their friends outside of sport. One is when their career ends, they very seamlessly join new social groups, new communities, and build new relationships. And the third thing is they are very open to trying new hobbies, trying new things, like broadening their passions, right, and sampling in different activities. And when they're able to do that, they find strong social bonds in other places. They find their sense of competence in other places. And if these things were done through their own volition, then they also have a sense of autonomy, right? So overall, their sense of well-being is retained. Whereas those athletes who over-index, so to speak, on their athletic identity, when the setback is forced upon them and they cannot recover, their well-being really takes a hit. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many examples, myself included, and people I know included, who, you know, at a certain phase in life, you over-index on one thing, and it's usually a higher sense of identity to work or a higher sense of identity to the sport that you do, and for whatever reason, it collapses and
Social
it's no
groups
longer
as well.
a thing.
You only have one group of friends.
Yeah. And part of it is, you know, just like singular focus. Another part of it is, you know, insecurity, and you just want to like outwork everyone. Another part of it is there's just not enough time, right? Because you're obsessing over this thing. But what I have noticed that is exactly in line with what you just said is for the people who took the time to invest in other areas of their lives. And in coaching psychology, there's a framework called the Wheel of Life that has, I think, like 10 variables. And it's, you know, obviously what you do for work, but also the quality of your relationships with your family and your friends, your contribution to a community around you. In some of these models, it's like spirituality and faith, also health and wellness and financial security, a bunch of different variables that tend to make up our sense of identity, right? And what I've noticed just from personal experience and just having friends gone through this myself as well, is the people who have robustness in areas outside of just the work thing or just the sport thing, when they fall, they don't fall as far. And they recover faster because they got, like you said, they got these other social groups. They got these other pillars to their identity. So it reminds them that, yeah, it didn't go so well on that, but there's a lot to be grateful for here. There's a lot of support that we can get. And from that strong foundation, we can rebuild.
And they transition pretty well between seasons too. I've noticed it with people like that. Like, I think all of it is not to say that we shouldn't go all in on a certain pursuit or a passion, right? I think if you fully passionate about a business idea or pursuing a certain achievement in a sport. Like there will be a season where we have to go all in on it and sprint.
Yeah, and it's cool. Like it's a
cool,
good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, and we're chasing I guess excellence, right? In the area. But when that time ends, then the season changes and we have to be okay with the season changing and moving on to the next thing. Right? Like
and it was actually in your best interests to, even in one of those high performance, high achievement phases where you've decided to just go for it, it's important to still maintain good relationships with the small circle that's important to you, to take care of your health and well-being, et cetera, et cetera. Just a few of those things. You have to have enough evidence in your life that those are important as well, and that those are high quality relationships, for example. And so when it comes to a topic like this, like pursuing stuff that means something to us, where my mind goes to is, you know, in the context of people who've either transitioning out of sport or trying to find a new sense of purpose if whatever they've done career-wise came to a halt. Maybe they lost their job, maybe something crashed, whatever it is. I feel like part of the recovery process is learning how to be curious again and learning how to sort of connect with the side of you that is wanting to just become interested again and have fun with ideas again. And it seems to me on an intuitive level that this type of curiosity, I don't know, just keeps things interesting and helps us want to keep improving, or I don't know if that's the right word, but it seems like it would nudge us in the direction of continuing to explore and have adventures, which for me on a like zoomed out time scale of your life, it seems like a good thing to have.
Yeah. I think these days we see curiosity as a really important quality to have, right? I think like for a long time in psychology, they understood curiosity as a drive reduction mechanism. So we experience a knowledge gap. We don't feel good about that tension.
Sorry, like drive reduction.
Drive reduction.
Curiosity as a drive reduction.
Yeah. So we look to fill up a gap in knowledge or in skill that gives us tension, right? Oh, I don't have this knowledge, I don't have this skill. So I go ahead and I fill it up. And once you fill that void, you stop being curious. That was the traditional understanding, right? But we all know that that's not true. Like, especially in affluent societies, we seek things that we don't know for personal growth. So researchers and psychologists, they have talked about two emotions when it comes to curiosity. One is curiosity is a feeling of deprivation.
Okay.
And curiosity is a feeling of interest. Deprivation is a feeling of tension. And it comes when you experience that gap that I just talked about, right?
A more traditional view.
More traditional view. You also have curiosity as a feeling of interest where you derive delight and pleasure from exploring and discovering new things and things that get you excited, right? So for like for me, it's like discovering a new punk rock band on Spotify. I was like, oh, it's pretty cool, like something new, kind of check out that seed and all that. So they've also broken down curiosity into like 5 dimensions. So those are the two emotions, and they overlap quite a bit, right? And you could experience growth through both kinds of curiosity. They're just different emotional pathways to that growth. And curiosity as a whole has then like I forgot what the researcher's name is, but like this guy broke it down, or girl, lady broke it down into like 5 dimensions of curiosity. One is joyful exploration. So that's the feeling of like delight and pleasure that you get from discovering new things. There is your deprivation sensitivity. So how sensitive you are to not knowing certain things, how sensitive you are to having certain gaps. And then there's your stress tolerance. How okay are you with not knowing, right? One is like how aware you are of having gaps. The other one is like, once you know that you have the gaps, how okay are you with dealing with that unknown?
Interesting, okay.
The 4th dimension is thrill seeking. This is the inclination to do crazy things like jump out of an airplane, which I guess a lot of people would, but I wouldn't. Yeah. And then there is social curiosity, which they then break down into 2 further categories, which is overt and covert social curiosity. So overt curiosity is when you're curious about people and you go ahead and form that relationship and find out about that person. right? This is pretty healthy.
Yeah.
Covert curiosity is like snooping around, gossiping, eavesdropping, that kind of
Stalking them on social media.
Yeah. And I think all these categories are important because the researchers have related them to different personality traits. You know, the ocean personality trait, right?
Yep.
Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. They related it to each dimension of curiosity to different personality traits, and that in turn predicts your well-being. So,
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were going there.
yeah, so things like joyful exploration and overt social curiosity, as anyone would guess, would predict higher overall well-being and higher productivity in the workplace as well. They looked at, I think, professionals in the workplace for this study. And then things like how high your stress tolerance is to dealing with the unknown is also quite important in having a higher sense of well-being. And things like covert social curiosity obviously correlates with higher neuroticism and disagreeableness, and that in turn leads to lower sense of well-being. Yeah.
And so when you think about a high performer and you think about kind of their patterns of exploring new things, do you have some thoughts around how to leverage curiosity in a better way to make better decisions or to explore new ideas? Or if people have patterns that are, dragging them to the covert social curiosity type of patterning, do you have anything that you think about to sort of pull them into a healthier way?
Yeah. But I don't have very creative ideas on how to leverage different types of social curiosity. But I think we had a conversation about this before, right? About how the mental performance coach, Brett Stulberg, he talks about when to quit a pursuit. Like when you know that it's time to quit. And if you're still curious about something and you can still learn, then you could keep going. But if you are no longer curious about the pursuit, then it's probably time to quit. And I think we can take that a step further and say like maybe be aware of what kind of curiosity you have. Maybe you are still curious, but are you curious because you feel like you have to keep up with the image of expertise that you have developed over the last 10 years? Or are you curious because it's joyful exploration? And what is your stress tolerance with, if you're trying to keep up the image of expertise that you built over the last 10 years, what is your stress tolerance with not knowing? Are you being anxious about not knowing? Are you being stressed about not knowing? And what is the cost of learning? Like, what's the opportunity cost of learning?
What are the trade-offs you're making by staying in the thing?
What are trade-offs? I think that's a really good one.
I think an interesting one is also if your dimension of curiosity in a relationship, for example, is mostly about, I don't know, thrill seeking. And it gives you that sort of large burst of energy, but you're already at a point where should I continue, should I not in this? If you do some reflection of like what type of curiosity is this mostly based on, and it's not some longer term potential value to your life or anything deeper than it's just a lot of fun and we do crazy shit together, then you can more clearly make the decisions that you need to make, right? And what about when it comes to growth? Is there anything that we know about curiosity and how it can impact our personal growth?
Well, I guess if we were to extrapolate what we just talked about, joyful exploration can be very important in finding out where you could potentially pursue growth. I think it's quite important it's also a luxury and a privilege to be able to broaden your pursuits and try different things. If you're able to feel excited from trying different things, you could potentially find a pursuit that matches your personality, a pursuit that matches your skills that you have developed in a previous domain. And Barbara Oakley talks about it in the book that I mentioned before in Mindshift, right? Like the way you can open up new possibilities of identity to yourself is to try new things. And
that option is available to all of us.
I hope so. I think it is a bit of a middle class privilege sometimes to be
fair.
To be able to, some people have no choice, right? They just have to stick to one pursuit.
What about when it comes to expertise and people who, it is very common in all industries, right? To have people who have done this thing for many, many years and decades. There's this archetype we all have in our heads of the annoying older guy who in the office who just like is a know-it-all and is not open to any of the new ideas of how we can do things, because he's like, I've been doing this for 30 years. You listen to me, son. So sort of thing. Curiosity for sure plays a part in this as well. And in terms of how people behave, no?
There's some interesting papers on that actually, on expertise and how they tend to make false claims, how they tend to make completely made up claims, right? So there was this study that looked at, basically the researchers spoke to people who believed they were financial experts.
Okay.
And they came up with like completely made up terms. I think one of the terms was like annualized credit or something like that, like something that doesn't exist. I don't know if that exists. I got no background in finance, right? What they found was people who saw themselves as financial experts would talk about the term, give it context, and add information to it as if it's real. Yeah, which is hilarious. Yeah, and also like quite important to know, I guess, when it comes to talking to experts. In another study, they made a certain group of people feel like they were experts in geography.
Okay.
Yeah, so they gave them geography questions, and I suppose they answered it pretty well, and they told them that, you must have a knack for this, so on and so forth.
Made them feel good about it.
Made them feel good about themselves, to give them a sense of competence, maybe not expertise, but competence. And then what's interesting next is that they told them, what we're going to do now is to give you certain places in the US, and some of these places are completely made up, right? So they give them a warning already. Some of these places are completely made up. And when they were given the made up places, they still talked about these places as if they were real.
Whoa.
Yeah. And what the researchers suggested from that finding was that they weren't trying to show off. They legitimately believed they had a competence to talk about this topic. Yeah. The big takeaway here, I guess, is that like expertise can give you a false sense of confidence about the thing that you're talking about. I guess some self-awareness is always good, but you also don't want to let it turn into... You want to have confidence in your competence, right? You want to have confidence in your expertise and your confidence. And you don't want your self-awareness to turn into rumination and have that be an obstacle to your actual performance when you go out and teach, or when you go out and actually lend your expertise to something. Yeah, but it's also good to be aware of like this dark side of expertise, I guess.
Yeah, I think good lesson to kind of draw from that you just shared is it's fine and probably a good thing for you to have confidence in a craft or a science that you've spent decades or many, many years working in. But let's not be closed off to new ideas.
What could be, right?
And to what we don't know and what could be. Because even if you don't glean any like great insights from it today, the couple times a year where you do get kind of hit with something that kind of shakes your worldview, you'll probably benefit from them. They'll probably make you even better at the craft that you're already good at. Yeah. I think the second thing that comes to mind is the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? With the second study that you mentioned, I see this all the time. And in fact, I experienced it when I was working in the fitness world for many, many, many years before I got my master's degree. And I really, really did feel, because I had trained so many clients, helped people get such good results and all this stuff, that I was an expert. Like, I know how to do this stuff. And then I remember like 3-4 weeks into my master's program being super disillusioned by the whole thing. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Half the stuff that I thought I knew, I don't know anything about. And the other stuff was just wrong. Like in so many contexts, it was just wrong.
That's how I feel whenever I read like any kind of paper or any kind of book. At the end of it, it's kind of like, you know, if this many new things were discovered and if this many new things are still unknown.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important things that I think they did on my master's program back in the day was they brought in a guest lecturer whose name is Dan John.
Oh yeah, Dan John.
Yeah, so he's a bit of like he's a bit of a legend in the strength training and the athletic development world. He's got no formal training in exercise science, and he's worked at a pretty high level with a lot of high level athletes. He himself was a very successful masters athlete in I think it was shot put and discus and Olympic weightlifting, a few other things. Just someone who really walks the talk. Yeah, who's more than rubbed shoulders with a lot of the top coaching brass in the US and professional sports teams and stuff like that, but no formal education in it. And a lot of the frameworks that he used were things that he just repeated
Yep.
from coaches that coached him.
Right.
And the faculty at the university I went to brought him in to show us that, hey, there's multiple ways to skin this cat of expertise. And just because you're some people here getting like highly educated, because that's what some people feel they need to do, it doesn't mean that you're like the best at doing this. Here's an example of someone who's got a very high level of expertise in terms of getting people ready for sport at the highest levels. He's got no formal training in this. And it's not one or the other. In fact, we should sort of blend them.
I guess it also helps that exercise science is a relatively new field compared to a lot of the other sciences.
And a lot of the research gets done on, let's see what the top guys are doing and let's see if we can make sense of that.
Yeah. I think it'll be much harder for a self-taught chemist, for example, straight into chemistry. You know?
That's true.
Yeah.
But the takeaway for the world that we live in the coaching stuff that we do, even if it transitions into something that is more advice-based, where people just need like legit plans and schedules and protocols for how to get the improvement that they're seeking. Just because we don't know everything about everything, just because we're not trained medical professionals, doesn't mean you're not good enough to help, right? A lot of times, the expertise that you need to help a person who's over here is just a little bit more experience and a little bit more knowledge than them, right? And if you have the right sort of frameworks in your mind about being responsible with the information that you give to people, and you know, put the right amount of attention into calling out when you don't have the expertise beyond a certain area, and you develop a network of people who you can go to get this expertise. I think that's the edge that you really want to live in, not be completely evidence only led, right? Because that also, it kind of puts constraints on you artificially that don't always apply to a n=1 sort of experiment.
I think the second last part that you mentioned is really important, of understanding what the limits of what your knowledge is, and developing a network of other experts that you can rely on, right? And then refer out when it's necessary. I think that's a really good approach. I think. Yeah.
Look, I'm so sorry, Gene, we're almost out of time. But there's a bunch of stuff that we did want to cover that we're gonna have to save for podcast number 2. I did want to say a couple of things, just like on a personal level first.
Okay.
I wanted to thank you as a human being, because a couple of years ago I went through something really difficult in my life, and I was struggling to keep my shit together. I was struggling to actually find a path that gave my life some structure. And you reached out knowing me decently well what I was going through. And you basically, in so many ways, said, just show up on Fridays at 10 a.m.
Lift weights or talk nonsense.
Yeah, let's lift weights or talk nonsense. And you made it very casual. You made it very unintimidating. And you knew that I was just being a piece of shit in my life and not doing anything. And you just like, come and have this structure. And the truth is, I showed up not because I wanted to show up for myself, but I'm like, I said yes to gym, I'm just gonna go. And then it became this thing, like we've talked about across this whole conversation, right? It became the thing where it started as a process-oriented goal, where I was trying to be accountable to you more so than to myself. And then it blossomed into this thing that became an anchor habit that helped me sort of, it acted as a foundation for me to rebuild many other aspects. And, you know, until today, almost 2 years on, we're still doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was, you know, for you, it was just trying to help a friend out at that time.
Yeah.
But it shows how much reaching out a hand like that and helping someone build a habit like that can have ripple effects in a positive way down the road. So thank you for that.
100% my pleasure, man. I think like for those who are not our friends and like don't know what our history is, our history is, we go super way back, right? And like you were one of the first people in Singapore to start like a boutique fitness gym, and there was a line that there was an industry that I really wanted to get into at that time, and like you took me on, you mentored me through all those years, right? Like more than 10 years ago, and like this was like a little thing that I could do to return the favor.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure.